Well, we're here today. I don't get many videographers on the podcast. I don't know why. I'm certainly open to that. We have Aaron Siebol here out of Yakima. He is a videographer. We've been chatting a lot of shop before we got on today. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. How is your day going?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's good. It's been smooth. Did a little bit of editing. I think that's our life pretty much, right? And then taught some dance lessons because I also teach dance on the side. So,
what kind of dance do you teach?
Ballroom dance instructor. So tango, waltz, salsa, bachata, merengue, West Coast swing, East Coast swing. It's kind of the whole. I stumbled into a job at 25 that with an international dance company, and it was a Craigslist ad actually. And so they took me on there. They said, we'll teach you how to dance. If you essentially become like a salesperson for us, like sell dance lessons once you get up to speed. And true to their word, they got me up to speed and then taught me stuff about my body and about dancing that I had no idea ever existed. So, yeah.
You could do like an add-on. You could teach first dance lessons, right? Have you ever had a couple? You could. I mean, I'm dead serious. Like, I mean, we have couples. That, I mean, I'm not even being facetious about it.
No. I haven't. I think initially, early in my web, the thing is, I wanted to be taken so not. I mean, it's like I feel like I'm taken serious as a videographer, but it's like I wanted to be like, because I had like music videos and stuff, and I was like, now I got to like tailor this to weddings and videography and with weddings, or else the market or the clients are going to be like, well, is he a dance or is he video? And like he's probably only half good at something because he's. And the reality is, like, I put a lot of time in dance, actually, like pretty much like a college education, 4 straight years of intense dance. But I probably put in 6 years. I mean, I've been shooting for a long time, but 5-6 years intensely into film. So, I would, dude, I might put a little link that says like, and I'll teach you, or whatever. So yeah, I just got to make a demo, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
So.
It is interesting. Like, I've struggled with that forever. I finally split my sites where, I mean, it's still all linked, but you can go to like best made wedding videos or best made corporate videos. Cause it is this weird, like, oh, if I see someone in a white dress, like, oh, you must not know how to shoot corporate stuff.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because I feel like if you can do weddings successfully with all the spontaneity, with all the energy, with all the clients' requests, with all your personal artistic, interpretations or skills, it's like you can pretty much, because you're shooting product shots when you're doing weddings, you're shooting emotional moments. Honestly, it's part of the reason why I wanted to get into weddings was because of the dynamic nature of it, and that to me, and it's just been 100% true. It's that storytelling, which is my favorite aspect of any shooting, is like it's got to have something emotionally attached to it that's meaningful. And so weddings, man, just bar none. So it's funny because I mean, you just get pigeonholed maybe, or and I get that too. You do want to specialize, I think, to a degree, but that's why you have different websites, and so do I. So.
But it is interesting because it's like when you can go in and control everything in the corporate shoot, you're like, this is, I mean, I can tell people to be quiet and go sit down or control the light or do this or move. Like with a wedding, it's like you lose a lot of that control, and it is weddings are, for filming anyway, are much more challenging to be on the wedding side, and you have one shot to do everything.
Just out of curiosity, where would you, if you could make a living completely on one, where would you throw your hat?
I would do weddings. I think as we move into the corporate season right now, and we have a lot of corporate video requests, because that's the thing. Because I think with our price point and our couples and the way that we market, they're happy with that representation, right, of what we capture, right? I think some guys guys and girls that, charge a lot more or are promising like this, cinematic vision of whatever, like that's, like we are going to capture your day how it is, right? And without really a lot of bells and whistles, where, you get into that corporate stuff, obviously the money is better, but then it's also just a lot more, time intensive and demanding in terms of the edits, where our edits for our wedding couples usually aren't too bad.
I will say, man, I think the thing that I didn't understand and now I absolutely adore about weddings is that one-on-one appreciation. It's like if you you know, like your goal is to make them happy. Hopefully they're thinking, I love your work, or I enjoy, I love your work, essentially, hopefully. And when that marriage, pun intended, like comes together, I just love it, man. I love when I get messaged. I'm sure you do too. It's like, we cried. We saw this and we cried. We bawled. And it's like, this is a person's or a couple's like most idealistic day, surrounded by friends and family. So, and each other. And anyway, so the love and appreciation you get, whereas like, I haven't done a lot of corporate. I just kind of dipped my toe in. I love music videos. I like the artist collaboration. I think that is really, I just love that. They're an artist. They get it. It's like, hey, this isn't going to be like 100% locked in. Like, you can plan a lot, but you know, day of, talent matters, lighting matters, like depending on where you're shooting, all that. So artists tend to, I think, understand that and appreciate that. Corporate, you know, they have no idea in my minimal experience with it. Like, so then you have to educate them and then go through the process and then shoot and then deliver. And then you have to manage expectations throughout each one of those levels. Whereas weddings, they should see your work. Music videos, they should see your work, you know, and then I don't know if that makes sense and resonates with you, but.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the weddings, you have a client of one, right? As long as the couple is happy with it, right? As long as they feel like that adequately represents their day. You know, where corporate stuff, like we were talking off camera, you know, there could be politics going on behind the scenes of what parts, you know, what can we include, or did we say the right buzzword correctly, or okay, that verbiage was wrong. Like that's not how we say. We're like, you know, the couple, and that goes into the whole thing, right? Where like, you know, we give a good experience day of, which then when they get their video, that carries over, right? We're like, if you're stressing people out, like I've worked with photographers, right? Where it's like, it's a very stressful situation. And then when they get those photos, like they remember that, right? Where for us, it's a little more, oh, Reed was cool and this is good and we're happy.
Yeah. And well, and dude, the whole marketing scheme, it like, there have been times when I'm on, my weakness is marketing, Instagram, Facebook. Like I barely do any marketing, which is honestly, it's fine. It's fine for right now. I'll fix that at some point, but I'm just getting by with what I got and word of mouth. And when the people do find me, it's been successful to that degree, which is great. But it's weird because I end up, you know, I watch YouTube videos, I watch Instagram little things, and it's like, I can't tell when. At first I've been watching videos where I'm like, are they being paid? Because it looks like, you know, like I'm being interviewed right now. I'm like, oh man, this is the greatest cell phone like I've ever had. Like, I can't believe like this is amazing. It's like, it's this kind of camera, but it's like, and in reality, it's like they're totally being paid like by whoever to sell this. And so anyway, I guess I don't know where that fits in, other than I feel like the traditional so that's, I guess, like new age marketing, trying to make it this authentic, not influencer kind of like vibe, and then there's other companies that are, you know, still, I guess, branding themselves, which I think is still correct. I mean, you know, Coca-Cola commercials with person, or Corona commercial on the beach, Coca-Cola Christmas with a polar bear, like those positive sense oriented emotional moments. So yeah, but again, I haven't dipped too much in that. You said something else that I was kind of gonna tag on, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Anyway, sorry. So yeah,
it's good. So how did you? I mean, you did the dancing, a lot of that. How did you get into videography? Has this been a lifelong thing? Is this recent? I mean, what? You know, I had no idea. I wanted, you know, if you had told me 8 years ago I would be doing wedding podcasts, you know. So how did you get into all this?
Hey, man, yeah. I'm curious about your story too, because I compare and contrast. Man, I was lucky because I think what happened fundamentally was my mom has really good taste in film. So she showed me just some iconic classics out the gate. I mean, Gone with the Wind, or, you know, Maltese Falcon, or, I mean, just kind of some really, like Doris Day, like some really, and they didn't have the technology that would rely on the performance and the story. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it shot beautifully. Some of that, that's the beauty of it, is some of that is timeless and classic in and of itself. That was, I think, the spark. I think after that, I was an athlete. I was kind of over sports my junior year in high school. I went to so my mom kind of influenced me by introducing me to cinema to a degree. She wasn't like into cinema. She just was like, this is really good. You should watch this. And then the next layer was I was getting out of sports. I love basketball to death. I played a lot when I was younger. I adored Michael Jordan, still do. And which, by the way, that Netflix doc, dude, ooh, just sports fan. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I went to a show at my high school, Eisenhower High School in Yakima. They had a show, a play, Guys and Dolls. And I was in the audience and I was watching high school peers. I think they were a grade or two above or a grade above. It blew my mind because here we're all in high school in real life. And yet here they are gambling, flirting with each other, because, Guys and Dolls, gangsters, ladies, flapper. Like it just the love, the intrigue, it just blew my mind. The performances were amazing. So after that, I was like, I want to be an actor. And so I went to college pretty much not knowing what I want to do other than I'll be an actor. I'll go to the theater and feel it out for a little bit. Well, I ended up pretty much, I have a different major, but dude, I by far put like 80%, no joke, 80% of my college time was in the theater department performing. And then because of that, you learn, you learn a little bit of lighting, you learn sound design, you learn all these things and, directors, directing, playwriting, which, screenplay. So that kind of, I didn't realize it at the time, but that really gave me a strong foundation for storytelling and a strong foundation for collaboration and a strong foundation for the art itself of not only acting, but theater. And then from there, actually right before college, I made a couple short films, a samurai thing inspired by The Matrix. And it's, I don't know, in hindsight, it's cool at the time. Anyway, and like one more. Anyway, so I did a couple short films then. After I got out of dance 10 years ago with that company, I did some more. I've done like 7 narratives and then jumped into music videos and then jumped into weddings. So anyway, that's kind of how the evolution of that. Yeah, I don't know if yours is that. It was that. I guess mine started, essentially in high school, and then and then evolved every 4 years into like a different idea. Even dancing, ballroom dancing, man. It's when you do performances, that's a story. It's like you're like if it's in my opinion, if it's a good performance, you're not just like hitting some of the beats. You're exaggerating moments. You're embracing. You're getting away. You're doing things that are telling the audience a dramatic story physically. And so I guess storytelling has always inspired me and changed me and moved me. So anyway, that was kind of the evolution of that. But I don't know if that was your experience or if you had some people I know, because, the education is on YouTube or whatever is like blossomed up. People, are able to jump in later in life, realizing that could be a cool market to get in or just a cool thing to do. So I don't know what yours is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because, and this is kind of the impetus of this podcast in general, right? Because obviously we talk to photographers and florists and videographers and everybody, and whatever your path is, that leads you here, right? I mean, you are a different videographer than I am, right? And right, photographers are different. And, it's because of that experience, right? That one of my good friends, Michael, well, he's a colleague. He is a wedding videos and corporate stuff, and he did a lot of nature documentaries growing up. So, his takes and his videos are a lot slower, a lot longer cuts, right? A lot more things.
Right.
Where like I grew up in news and that was what I did. And so, my videos look, and so that's what always been fascinating to me is, everyone's, what your perspective is and your view shapes, from how you grew up and kind of what we're obviously like, you're more into the storytelling. And I would say like, I'm a little bit less of that, like it's
more docu for you, like documenting, I guess. Is that what you, would that be?
Yeah. And I think that I focus, we're more, I think we're more of a service industry than a product industry, right? I mean, I think that the way that I look at it is a little bit more like man,
that's interesting. I've never heard that. That's really interesting.
You know, and that's what part of, I'm working on a corporate thing right now. We were talking off camera is, you know, they do stuff for homes, right? And that's what they talk about too, is like, okay, well, we're not just like securing your home, right? We're servicing you with something that's going to give you peace of mind for the next, 10, 20 years, right? And so it's more of a service than it is a product. But like I said, with our stuff, like, when they get their video, you're happy because of that whole experience, because of the initial inquiry, through the booking, through the day of, through the after, through all that stuff. We're like, there's some videographers, right? They're like, oh, well, I'll get you your video in, 9 months or whatever after the wedding. Well, okay, so you have a different level of whatever. You've waited 9 months, you get the thing, and you're like, okay, well, I haven't heard from this person in 6 months, and now I get it. And like, it's different than like, oh, Reed gets it to us. Like, I'm posting sneak peeks on Instagram. We're seeing the process, and then we get it. It's just different, right?
Well, and that's a really interesting. I don't know if it's philosophical or like that's a really interesting take. And I think, I guess for me. So, it's interesting. I guess there's like, it's like that capsule, which, it's like these big videography houses, and then the boutique ones. And I guess I consider myself a boutique one because at first I was like 8 weeks, and then I was like, I didn't know that it was going to slowly ramp into so much work initially. And so that's now like 12 to 15 weeks. So I guess, that's right. If somebody is looking for a quicker turnaround and they're looking for something that pretty much documents a day, and again, I don't even think that's a matter of like better or worse, because that's just interpretation of how you want to remember one of the more important days of your life. That's really interesting. But for me personally, it's like, and I've gone back and forth on this, man. I've gone back and forth on the creative interpretation of a day. Like, right, when they hire me, I'm not there to do a one-to-one documentary. I could, and honestly, I err on the side of real. I like organic and natural. I try to avoid a lot of. I pose a little bit, but honestly, if the photographer is posing, which 95, 100% of the time they do, and that's great, I'll capture that. And people do need that kind of direction to get them to loosen up and to connect with one another in front of somebody else, in front of a camera. I understand that that's abnormal. You don't do that in your home. You don't do that when you're out on a walk. So it's been this really interesting, I guess, conversation with myself to be like, it's coming through my eye. You're hiring me because you like how I capture the essence of your day. It's less about the documentarian coming in and just getting a one-to-one, and it's more about doing part of that. Because I don't. The thing is, I don't want you to watch your video and be like, whoa, like this is so beautiful, but it's not us.
Yeah.
To me, it's a marriage of those two. It's like, this is so beautiful, and you captured things I didn't know were going on, and also you captured very much the energy and essence of me and my partner, and also our friends and family. And you also have an artistic slant and bent that we just love. That to me is that's where I want to live. So it's in that realm versus I'm so artsy and cool, because I've been editing before. I'm like, I can't do that. It takes away the focus from them. And like, what's this film about? It's about them. It's about their day. It's like, it's not about how cool my editing tricks or my visuals are. It is to a very small degree, because that's why they hired me, but it's not about that. Does that make sense? So it's really interesting that you frame it as a service, because I've almost wanted to go versus like a product. In a way, I've tried to safeguard the artistic integrity of my filming sensibilities. And we talked about this right at the start of like, why it's kind of written in the contract, final cut, final say, because you should have done your research to understand, oh, this is what they bring to the table. And we'll collaborate. And I'm totally open to some insight, of course, like insights to the day. These people are important, or, you know, these moments, of course. But as far as how it all comes together, yeah, that's really interesting, man. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's something I've thought about a long time. I don't know if that makes sense. If you have any thoughts on that, but
yeah, it's hard because, you know, but I mean, you know, we balance that out too. You know, I really want the couples to know like what they're getting from us, right? And I've always looked at it, you know, I think videography, especially photography to an extent, but, you know, photos, right? You can take 100 photos of any event, right, and put together an album. You know, with videography, you know, you really have to have a purpose, right? You know, what are we putting together with this? What are we telling with this, right? And you know, it's always been this balance, and I'm sure you belong to a lot of these like wedding videography, or like the wedding videographers Facebook group, right? It's like a whole national, whatever, these ones that are like everyone's talking all the time and stuff. And I think videographers get caught up in the art versus the business, right? And it's like, well, no, well, this is what I want to do. It's like, yeah, well, then go do your short film, right? I mean, if you want to do, you know, but like if you're trying to sell a service, you know, and the client's paying for it, it is that, but it's always those two sides. And I think especially with videographers struggle with that the most.
Well, and I think with that, I guess that's where the sink or swim, right? Because if you're going to be artsy fartsy and it's your way or the highway, and it's, I'm going to cut together these birds and that ocean lick of the wave and that flower, and then your hands, and then, you know, that smile, and then, you know, and then finally 10 minutes, and you know, and you know, and then finally you get to the couple or something. It's like, you know, I can see where, that would, you know, take away from the idea. For me, what I found what I started to do with my films was, I was like, okay, 5-minute highlight. But then I started to shoot so much, and I was like, man, I personally do like it's like that day. What was the weather like? So like, I'm like, what do the clouds look like? And that sounds like, why would you shoot the clouds? Why would you actually throw the clouds in the cut? Like that, like who was looking up at the clouds? And for me, or that tree that was waving, you know, in the wind, or that bird that perched itself in a very obscure spot on the lawn or something. And I guess for me, like, even though it is about the couple and the wedding, life itself is continually going on. And I guess for me, that's nature always is that the humbling beauty, I guess, of the existence of the universe, or of us, or whatever, without getting too crazy. But it's like, and so I guess for me, I try to interject some of that so that it was captured that day. And so the couple understands or sees like all the other beauty surrounding their beautiful day. Mm-hmm. I totally understand where, and I've seen some, man, it's the spectrum is wide, right? It's a hardcore artsy, and I've seen some hardcore artsy that I love, but I'm like, I don't know how the couple felt about that, because it seemed to kind of outshine. But maybe, you know, we're kind of in a weird thing with Instagram and like TikTok, and like, so whatever makes you look the best, even if it's at the cost of you to a degree. I don't know if that'd even be fair to say, but anyway, you have the artsy, then you have like the hardcore, just black and white. It's like, you capture it as it is. And there's no, you know, the cuts are from segment to segment. It's getting ready to showing up to the venue, to you know, groom's shots and bridesmaid shots, and then, you know, ceremony, and then cake cutting, then dancing, you know, and that formula is. But I guess for me, when couples seek me out, I hope they're thinking, we've looked at a lot of wedding films. He marries the two together really beautifully. We are excited to have him do the artsy thing and trust him. Because that's what it comes down to too, is that trust with whoever. It's like, you know, the corporate stuff. They see your work, they trust you to deliver, and then also he's going to capture us in our most, you know, best. But I haven't been on I'm in one videography group on Facebook, and and it's pretty positive. I mean, there's some good constructive criticism that's launched. I should probably post one of mine. I don't know. Yeah. I've kind of shied away. I've shied away because the internet's a very interesting place. And so I don't know what to make of it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's, it's interesting, right? And certainly it evolves over time, right? We're the style and everything that we've done so like very tuned in, right, to like how we do videos now, right?
For sure.
But it is that like my videos are terrible Instagram videos, right? Because they're not flashy enough. There's not enough condensed, beautiful shots in 45 seconds or whatever, right? We get lots of cocktail hour and we get lots of, mingling, the couples.
Memories,
things.
I guess, maybe, would you say?
Yeah. And so, like those things are great for the couple, right? But it's terrible for like Instagram, right? Because you're looking at this like, what is so, but like
oh God, right.
But I've ultimately just been like, well, I don't care about that, right? We can post some still frames and things, but like that is not right. You have to edit. Again, are you editing for yourself? Are you editing for the art? Are you editing for the couple? And really marry, we have a whole questionnaire that we go through with the couple about, what is important to you and what do you want to see? Because I always tell them like, what is important to me or what is important to, bride or groom or whoever is different than you. And so we need to know what to capture. The example I always give is, we have this questionnaire and the first one I ever sent out, because it tells everything, right? Like how detail shots, dancing shots, reception detail, all these different things. And they had portraits, like couples portraits, one-on-ones, like all that stuff, like 1, like not important. Guests mingling, 10. Casual dancing, 10.
Oh, you rate it. That's cool.
And so I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, this is, who wants that much, cocktail hour? I know, and so I asked them, I go, hey guys, we're trying this thing. I mean, this is, 5 years ago. And they go, well, we get photos of us all the time, right? All our friends are coming in from the East Coast. We haven't seen them in a year and a half. Like that's what we want to see, right? We don't really care about us. We get photos of us all the time. I go, oh, well, then that's great. Then we're going to focus our energy on the things that you actually want to see. Whereas if we hadn't have done that, due diligence,
it would have
right?
been that, right.
And then they would have been, so that's why,
nice,
and obviously it differs from couple to couple, right? But that's the most glaring example of that. But it's really good to know, like, why do you want the video? Well, I want it because I want to see my first dance with my grandmother or what. Okay, well, that's really great to know, right? Or whatever it is.
We're gonna, right. So, well, and it's interesting, man, because I was thinking about this earlier with who are you editing for? Because there is that comes into it a little bit, right? Obviously, you're editing for the client and the couple, like number one. But I showed one of my films to a really good friend of mine, and she, Catherine, shout out to her, she's awesome. But she watched it, and then at the end, so I had this shot, and I'm focusing on a different couple. I can't remember how they're related, but somewhat close. They were in a lot of the family photos. So I'm on them, and they're pretty big on the screen, like here. And then I go around them, and I see the couple, and they're dancing together. They have no idea that I'm there shooting them. And I rack to them, and he says, "I love you," and then kisses her, I think. And then she says, "I love you too." You only see the mouth. You can't hear. I'm so far away. And then I cut the film. That's the end of the wedding, or the wedding film. And my friend goes, "Oh, like, I don't know if I'd want to be like videoed in that moment or whatever." And at first I was like, yeah, it's kind of not invasive because they know that I'm bouncing around and doing whatever. They hired me. But yeah, like that's a very intimate, in my mind, extremely beautiful, but intimate moment. But I was like, for me, part of the reason I left that in, well, a lot of reasons, but one of the main ones was I just was thinking, oh my gosh, if they have kids, or if they show this somebody like 20 years, 50 years, if I saw my parents in a very unrehearsed, like, because when you're shooting and they know you're there, that's a slightly different energy you get than if they don't know you're there, and then you capture something so organic. And so I told her essentially, like, man, I would have, if I could see my great grandparents in that moment, or my grandparents, or my parents even in that kind of a intimate moment, that would blow my mind in the most beautiful way. So in a way, it's like you're cutting for the client, obviously, but assuming that they want this to be somewhat of an heirloom, or even just something that's made, because I would definitely be watching, I wouldn't be watching my parents every 6 months, but it's like, man, if I could pull that out once a year or once every 5 years or something, it would just rock my world. So anyway, part of that too goes into the equation, I guess. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot of components, man, artistic choices regarding shooting and editing that, speaking to another videographer, it's cool too, to kind of understand, your take and your perspective on it. So yeah.
Well, it's one of those things, and I do think that if anything else, like COVID has helped increase the interest in video. This is the conversations we've had with consults lately. I mean, obviously with live streaming and things, but having, capturing these moments and having them exist, right? We shot a wedding years ago. It was not a wonderful, right? I mean, we were the most expensive vendor, and like, we're not that expensive. And, but they're there and they're dancing, and we captured everything. We were only there 6 hours, and like, they're dancing. We just let the cameras roll on the dance floor. They're just doing whatever. And I'm like, in 40 years or whatever, they're going to be able to watch that and be like, God, I mean, because they were really young. Like, they were like, 20, whatever. And they're going to be like, man, look at like our dumbasses dancing here. Like, but I'm like, that exists now, right? Because we were there to capture it, right? Like, if we're not there, those moments don't exist, right? It doesn't exist unless you, I mean, obviously it happened, but it exists if you're able to capture it and preserve it.
Yeah, and I think I was chatting with another buddy of mine, and Tyson. He was we collaborate on some film stuff, and he was like, the flowers are going to go away. I mean, you've probably heard this, the dress might go away or whatever, but the photos and nowadays, because video, it's like those won't ever go away. And man, it's interesting, because I was, after like the third or fourth one, I was like, would I get a video of my day, or would I? It's almost like videos, like it's so oversaturated. Like, everything is like shot now, and so everything is shot. It's like you can capture, something you made at dinner last night and then post it, or whatever. And yeah, I guess, but I guess his point was, dude, that lives on for as long as that video exists, and as long as somebody is around that cares about it to watch it. And assuming that, I guess, families go on, for generations, which I guess definitely is a thing for some, then that kind of detailed account of something meaningful and special, and like, even that would be monumental in a lot of ways, I think. And for me personally, I think I would get one, because I was like, I don't know, even though I have this acting background, like filmmaking, it's like I kind of love being behind the camera, because I don't go out of my way to be like, hey, like, this is, and obviously you wouldn't do it on your wedding, sort of, but some people do. And but yeah, I would get one, just so that, I guess 30, 40 years from now, my kids, whoever, would be like, whoa. Because for me, like what you were just saying about that couple, was like, we got friends flying in from out of town, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I would love to see my grandparents and like them, but if I've seen photos and maybe if I knew them for 10 years of my life or whatever, 15, 20 years, like, that would be awesome to see them. But man, if I could see their best friends, if I could see their grandparents, like who would be, I guess, my great or something like that. And so, if I could see their clothing, can you imagine the clothing choices you made? Like, versus, like, all of that says something, like how, and again, it's not necessarily how important, like, you spent $100,000. It's not about that. It's because you can do that with $100, if you really want to, go and do the work to find it, a dress or a suit or whatever. Brides are like, yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right, bro. F you, man. That's not $100. But anyway, yeah, so for me, it's like there's a lot that could that's gleaned from that, isn't just the couple in a video, that I think is powerful and might live on beyond what a person might even think it would. So anyway.
No, but it's funny, because like, when you talk about people like not wanting to capture it, we do like a lot of wedding shows in Seattle, and we'll be talking, like, the brides will be walking by on their phones. You go, oh, hey, like, do you want a wedding video? And they're like, no, like, I'm not, or they'll be like, no, like, and like you said, like, where everyone's capturing everything, and you're like, why wouldn't you want this of you? Like, in an actual, good, usable, it's very funny to me.
Well, dude, and what gets me, so I'm a part of some of like the Northwest wedding groups or whatever. That's how I've gotten a little bit of my business. They'll say something, usually it's a bride, but someone will post and it'll be, hey, can I get a reasonable videographer, a reasonably priced videographer? And I guess to me, I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, what would you classify as like, what's reasonable? Because, and again, some are really great. And they're like, hey, we don't have a big budget. Like, we're looking for somebody $500. It's like $1,000. It's like, respect. That's their budget. You don't want to blow that. You just want somebody that's like learning the craft, or that's just their price point, and that's what you want. Totally understand. But I guess, whenever they say that, it's almost, it feels like, and again, I mean, you don't take it personally because you can't, because it's business or what, but it's like, it feels like, your pricing might be unreasonable. Yep. And it's like, well, it's reasonable based on the skills. It's based on the artistic,
the time,
vision, the time. Oh my gosh, the time. Well, yeah, when you price all that out and then you compare somebody that's $500, somebody that's $1,200, somebody that's $2,500, somebody that's $4,000, somebody that's $8,000, usually most of the time, there's a climb in quality for audio, a climb in quality for the gear. It's just, you can just tell that they're using some high res or their camera gear, their dynamic ranges. Again, and layman people that aren't videographers, cinematographers, that's not their language. They just, does it capture what I need it to kind of capture, and end of story. And again, I respect anybody that's has a budget and is looking for specific needs, or somebody that's within a specific price point. But yeah, sometimes you can tell the tone of the thing on that group is like, oh, and I'm like, I guess I won't put myself, out there, because I don't want to I don't want you to be like, what? Anyway, I don't know. But I see that on occasion. It just always makes me, I guess, laugh a little bit. But.
Well, and it's the time, just the experience and time and everything that goes into it. We had a consult the other day, and they're getting married down south, and that was her question, right? She goes, "Hey, I'm looking at you and someone that's about 40%, right, of your rate, and can you help kind of talk
40%? Wow.
Yeah, and like I said, we're not like wildly expensive, right? And so it's like, what can you? And I was like, well, we've done 350 weddings, like we've done this many hours, like this is like, you're like, okay, well, I can't, like,
right.
When you quantify that, like, they probably have not been doing it as long, right? So there's just a lot of intangibles that go into it, right? There's a lot of just like having spent a lot of time at weddings, right? And like how things should go, or, hey, don't forget to go pee now, or do the, just like all these intangibles that you can't put a price tag on, of like, we do this a lot,
Well, not only do you do this a lot, so you understand the wedding and how to best capture the most anticipated moments, like the most likely moments to occur. Like when the bride is walking down with her dad, like she's probably going to hug him at the end of the aisle. That's a pretty critical moment. If you've been to weddings, that's a thing. The first kiss, obviously a critical moment. Like, so like you just now have a library of moments that really usually matter to the couple. But dude, the trigger time involved in understanding your camera, in understanding the settings, and that's all just like technical. That's not even artistic at that point. It's like, I should shoot this at 24 frames, this at 30, or higher if I need to. I need to get an ND filter because, man, that sun is blaring, or like, to understand all of that takes hours, if not years, but definitely tons and tons of hours, usually years, to develop. And again, I mean, hopefully, I guess for me, I just hope that when somebody looks at my work, they probably don't consciously or know that, but unconscious, subconsciously, like not unconscious, but subconsciously, they realize, oh wow, there's something that like that's really clear. That's he captured that at a weird angle, but in my mind, I'm like trying to elevate them so it's low, or and so hopefully that resonates with them. But yeah, it is the intangibles. There's no way it'd be like us trying to be, like a plumber gives us, or an electrician. It's like, I don't know what you're charging me. I just know you're telling me what's going to cost, and I believe you or I don't, and you explain it and it kind of makes sense, that kind of thing. So it's like, you just go with good reviews, good people, good references, whatever, I guess. So.
Well, Aaron, I really appreciate you coming on today. If you want, if people were curious about seeing a lot more of your work, right, social media stuff, where would you have them check out?
Absolutely. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Reed. AaronJamesWeddings.com. And then I think it's Aaron James Weddings across the board. Instagram, Facebook, email at gmail.com. So, that's I would say are the best places to find me.
And obviously you're based in Yakima, but you'll go. Or Have Camera will travel.
Have Camera will travel Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Canada, if they're open. So absolutely.
Yeah. Like I said, I always appreciate, having other videographers come on here, and it's good to always talk shop. If you are a wedding vendor curious and coming on in the future, you can go to bestmadevideos.com/podcast guests. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire to get you in the system. But Aaron, it's a pleasure meeting you, and hopefully we can cross paths here sometime soon.
Dude, absolutely. Thank you so much, Reed.